and he is a very good host as well, and he's a writer as well, and he's a very encouraging motivational speaker as well. So as the first speaker from junior to senior, I have just managed like this. So Mr. Suresh Rai is going to speak on this very topic. So I would like to request Mr. Suresh Rai to start your virtual talk, please.
Okay, I think I'm visible and audible both, right?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
All right, so am I visible too?
You are visible, sir, and very
All
nice
right.
background. Okay, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to just crack on with my talk, all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Subhash Singh, for having me as one of the speakers at this incredible virtual talk sharing program. And my happiness knows no bounds here today, as I've been the first speaker here at this August event. Anyway, esteemed Emeritus Professor Dr. Govinda Tumvang sir, the former and the first governor of province number 1 of Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal, and Emeritus Professor Dr. Kedar Paudel sir, my teacher, and similarly Associate Professor Gyaneshwar Jha sir, he is also my teacher, and other teachers of mine, senior scholars, fellow friends, dear junior ones, and all the intellectual attendees in the audience. Well, I'm afraid I can't really address all of you by your names, as we've got a pretty short time limit here. I got to speak for about 15 minutes only, I feel. So I can't afford to spend much time here. However, I just hold you all in high regard. Anyway, so without any further delay, let me just crack on with my talk. Well, as you probably know, this virtual discourse is based on the major theme, lockdown, indispensability, impacts, and incongruities. And well, I'm going to just do my bit in speaking on the topic lockdown, global media, and media consumption habits, especially how we consume media, or the way that we just use media in our daily lives after, you know, the country just imposed lockdown measures to curb the coronavirus spread all over the world. Anyway, well, today I've already told you also about this, right? So I'm going to just focus on how the media outlets from across the globe are disseminating the up-to-the-minute, authentic and credible news updates and stories in the face of COVID-19 pandemic, and how this lockdown has affected the journalists, and how our media consumption habits have changed our restriction of the movement at this unprecedented crisis time. Well, first COVID-19 outbreak took place in Wuhan, a Chinese city. You already know that in December 2019. All right, and World Health Organization declared this coronavirus outbreak a pandemic on 11th March 2020. Well, in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, well, most of the countries where coronavirus cases were reported imposed a lockdown, or in other words, stay-at-home orders to contain the spread of the virus anyway. And coronavirus has prompted several countries to implement lockdown measures, from national quarantines to school closures, all right? And according to express.health.uk, over a third of the planet's population is expected to be on lockdown right at this moment. Anyway, well, lockdown is literally a massive blow to the journalists across the world, because when the restriction of the movement measures have been put in place, well, they have been, you know, up against a lot of hurdles while going out to different different fields to report the news and cover the stories. All right, and you know what? Well, for the most part, the correspondents associated with various media outlets are faced with a good few trials and tribulations in terms of news coverage, to be precise. And well, even though they have the government press card, it's relatively difficult at this critical juncture, for sure. That's what I feel. Anyway, and despite the difficulties and all the hurdles, you know, all the major and minor media outlets, from across the globe haven't stopped disseminating the credible and authentic news to their audience. That's what's happening right at this moment. Anyway, now I want to just talk about the level of coronavirus news coverage by different media companies in different countries. Well, within January 2020, the first full month in which the outbreak was known, well, Time magazine recorded 41,000 English language articles containing the word coronavirus. And out of them, well, 19,000 made it to headlines. Anyway, and in the meantime, you know, the Chinese government received severe criticism for censoring the extent of the outbreak, all right, because initially China did not really disclose the information regarding a new virus strain that was just really life-threatening, and that was just affecting a whole bunch of people there. So for this reason, China, you know, faced a backlash from the people worldwide, specifically by the US. And you know what? Well, intriguingly, President Donald Trump of the United States of America literally lambasted the Chinese President Xi Jinping. All right, and while broadcasting the reports about the outbreak, the British tabloid newspapers such as The Sun and the Daily Mail used the language fear-inducing. I think, you know, you're just probably aware of this if you just really follow the news on a daily basis. That's what I feel. And in the USA, opinion hosts and guests on Fox News, I think you know Fox News channel, right? And that is a conservative media outlet. And opinion hosts and guests on that certain channel initially downplayed the disease outbreak, right? And the US President Donald Trump initially accused media outlets such as CNN, that is cable news network, of doing everything they can to install fear in people, all right? And during lockdown, many online news portals published the fake news and misinformation about coronavirus, actually, okay? And fake news has spread as fast as the virus itself. That's what I feel. And according to a research by the Oxford Internet Institute, the average piece of junk health news online has about the same distribution as a BBC article. I think there's some disturbance. So will you please mute the people who are just creating disturbance here?
Okay.
And just, okay, so please unmute yourself if you're not really talking, okay? Because I'm having some disturbance here while I'm talking. Anyway, and I'm just talking about disinformation and misinformation. There is some difference, actually. While disinformation intends to deceive people, misinformation is simply wrong or fake. So that's something you need to know about these two terms, disinformation and misinformation. And similarly, the problem with fake news is that it can lead to devastating consequences, to be precise. You know, I think you heard an incident about Iran where over 700 people died after drinking toxic methanol, that is inflammable liquid alcohol, believing that it's going to just cure a coronavirus, right? So they just really ended up dying after consuming lethal alcohol in Iran. That's a very unfortunate incident anyway. And the other platforms like YouTube is a Google-owned platform, you already know, all right? So YouTube is just taking down anything that contradicts advice from the World Health Organization as far as the misinformation and disinformation are concerned anyway. So on social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter also, we can see a lot of such misleading pieces of information being shared. I think some of you might have shared some kind of fake information on Facebook. I think, you know, it has happened to me a few times, but then like I don't share a lot of stories on my profile on Facebook and Twitter. Anyway, and you know what, well, I heard Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey saying that they would just take down any content that misleads the public. That's what I have heard. There was this kind of news just circulating in media a few weeks back, actually. And now I'm going to just talk about how the small media have been hard hit by lockdown measures that have been put in place all over the world. Well, small media outlets with relatively low income have been worst hit because since all the business entities or corporate houses are shut down due to lockdown all over the world, they can't really generate income. And when the business entities do not really have income, they can't really sponsor the programs on the radio and television, which are the traditional forms of media, all right? And however, state-funded media houses like BBC and CNN, Radio Nepal are not really affected much, due to this lockdown. Okay, that is the global media. I just really put forward my insight into that. Now I'm going to just switch over to media consumption habits during lockdown actually. Self-isolation or stay-at-home orders, or you can even say stay indoors orders imposed by the governments all over the world. Anyway, as the coronavirus outbreak continues to wreak havoc across the globe, most of us are in this pandemic-induced social isolation actually, right? We're just really in one way or other isolating ourselves in our homes or in a certain limited space anyway. And in other words, a significant proportion of the world's population is currently under some form of lockdown in order to curtail the spread of the virus anyway. And Global Web Index has found that over 80% of consumers in the US and the UK consume more content since the outbreak, with broadcast TV and online videos. That means like, YouTube, TikTok, right? That is so popular, that is massively popular, with the use these days being the primary mediums across all the generations and genders. Anyway, so most of the people view the World Health Organization as the most trusted source of information for any COVID-19 related updates. Essentially, most of the people watch WHO's Facebook Live, I think, on coronavirus updates. That's what I do as well. So, I'm just telling you this. Anyway, radio broadcasts are massively popular now in some of the African nations. In the Central African Republic, radio broadcasts are a useful means to share public information, especially to the most remote populations. And UN volunteers assigned with the radio broadcast jobs are on the front line to raise awareness about the COVID-19 pandemic, to be precise. And these dedicated UN volunteers share current updates on coronavirus via radio shows and advocate for prevention and protection measures, right? And in Nepal also, the radio plays an instrumental role in disseminating information to the people mainly residing in remote areas where they don't have an easy access to internet and other modern advanced forms of media. Anyway, so on the whole, TV channels have seen their TRP, that is target rating point, surging, and radio stations have become massively popular for the news updates during lockdown. Now I'm going to talk about how media consumption habits have shifted, or there has been a paradigm shift in the way we consume media all over the world. Anyway, so you might see, or you might really find yourself moving to digital platforms as a source of information, research, productivity, and entertainment, right? Well, a social media consumption level has dramatically increased over these few months, actually, due to this lockdown triggered by coronavirus pandemic all over the world anyway. And according to influential market impact reports, users confined to their homes since early March are turning to social media to connect with their loved ones actually. And there has been 29% increase in time spent on social media. That's what has happened. And YouTube and Instagram saw the biggest increase. That means 32% and 44% increase in time spent on them respectively. That's what has happened. And now we are just using this virtual discourse here on this Zoom app. And this has been hugely popular, of late, right? Well, and Facebook and Instagram Live are going incredibly popular these days, no doubt about that. And there is another kind of media these days. This is called audio podcasts and video podcasts. And audio podcasts are massively popular with the audience these days. And well, these days, like, you can see a lot of rock stars, pop stars, you can say global celebrities just live streaming on social media. And that means, like, say Facebook and Instagram, these social media platforms to entertain their fans across the planet. And these days, videos are not really confined to the television channels alone. All right, you can create video anywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, broadcast the amazing videos as well, especially. And these the users of these platforms, broadcast a lot of videos which are really incredibly amazing to watch as well. And even the radio stations are creating video content for their audience these days. That's really interesting. And now I'm gonna just wrap up in a little while, because I have very few things to say now, all right, because I think I'm just running out of time. Well, and however, nonetheless, newspaper readership has been seen sort of declining these days, because most of the people do not read newspapers due to digital platforms or internet and things like that. And according to an analysis of data from Chartbit, Google continues to be the most important traffic source for news media companies globally, and that accounts for 2 out of every 3 page views from the leading global technology companies. Anyway, now I'm going to just briefly talk about creativity level as well, right? So creativity level has surged exponentially on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok due to lockdown, and you might have just experienced this. Lots of people are taking to Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, showcasing their latent talents, and they have just unleashed their full potential, like singing or dancing or cooking or stuff like that, right? And now let's briefly talk about what kind of content or stuff just go viral on social networking sites in Nepal and beyond frontiers. Well, in Nepal, basically, if there are political news updates, basically if there are some controversial news updates and news coverage, and if there are news stories about policy corruption on the part of the rulers, they just really go viral, all right? And lately, unfortunately, there has been a genocide in Brooklyn, and that has also gone viral, actually, all right? And if there are some sarcastic content or material, they also go viral on the social media these days. And recently, the death of George Floyd, that has also gone viral on mainstream media and social media both. Well, talking about him, on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd, an unarmed 46-year-old African-American man, died at the hands of a white police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the United States of America. And he was pinned down to the road, and a police officer knelt on his neck for more than 8 minutes, and he unfortunately, took his last breath in custody, and he was charged with using counterfeit money to buy some cigarettes, actually. And you know what? Well, this brutal killing of this man sparked a massive nationwide civil unrest. That means protests and rallies across the USA and in other countries as well. And in some places in the US, you might have seen protests turning violent, and protesters vandalizing properties and setting police stations and houses ablaze, looting and all that jazz, all right? And protests are still dragging on in some cities. And now to wrap up, there has been a feud between Donald Trump and Twitter lately, all right? Well, certainly, a few weeks back, President Donald Trump of the US, tweeted a certain tweet on his Twitter account, and that just sparked some kind of controversy as well. And Twitter's decision to fact-check President Trump's tweet has angered Mr. Trump, and also Twitter has also accused him of glorifying violence when he tweeted, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." And as this COVID-19 pandemic, has forced us into lockdown, both mainstream media and social media platforms have literally become the last resort for us, to be precise. And there has been a considerable change in the way we consume media during these challenging times, but we gotta just think positive, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna be able to get through this pandemic, and we're gonna be able to overcome all the tragedies that have befallen the humankind all over the world. And having said this, with these words, well, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suresh Rai, for your wide range of information and resource-based information. Of course, you have really talked with your global understanding and global resource, and that's really great. And for the reflector, we have our